July 3rd, 2024, Kav Zayin Sivan. It's summer, and many of us are praying in different places, running up against different scenarios. A big scenario that keeps coming up is excessive noise levels in the Beit Knesset. So I was thinking about it, and there's a beautiful teshuvah written by Haim HaLevi, who was chief rabbi of Tel Aviv. He wrote this teshuvah to a questioner sometime between 1978 and 1981. It appears in his book Aseh Charab, volume 4. And basically, the person asking the question wants to know what to do about noise level. Have people talking in Kines become a legitimate activity and it's okay and we should ignore it and allow it to happen? And as well, what about the noise level coming from children that are brought to the Beit Knesset and are running around doing their own thing? They're not praying, they're not being supervised, nothing's going on with them. And that's the question in a nutshell. The Hakam has a beautiful teshubah. He analyzes some of the sources, showing us the importance of respecting the Beit Knesset and the dinim involved. And one must read it from inside, from his works, to see exactly what he says. So he tells you, "B'tahillah, akadem shekedushat Beit Knesset hi hamura biyoter." He goes, I must preface and say that the Kedusha of the Beit Knesset, the sanctity of the Beit Knesset, is extremely severe. V'yesh omrim shehi min Torah, and there are those that say that it is deoraita. It is a item that has been prescribed to us and told to us directly from the Torah. It's not something that was made up by the rabbis, but something directly from the Torah. And he quotes the Yereim, the B'Eliezer means, in his book Yereim, which is a book on the Tariag Mizvot, and he says, "V'yareta me'elohecha." We have a pasuk, "V'yareta me'elohecha ani Adonai." You have to have awe, fear of your God. I am God. Okay, and "V'yareta me'elohecha," what does it mean? Siva b'hikanes adam migdash, all the Beit Knesset, all the Beit Midrash, shinhog b'hem mora v'chabod. Hashem commanded us, when a person enters the Mikdash, the Beit Mikdash, or the Beit Knesset, or the Beit Midrash, any of these three, he must act in a way of awe, fear, respect, honor. Umasinu bebeit Knesset ubebeit Midrash nikreu Mikdash, and we have found that the Beit Knesset and the Beit Midrash are called the Mikdash. Umebi b'Torat Kohanim, and he quotes Torat Kohanim, ve'ashimoti emikdeshechem, and I will destroy your sanctuaries. What are the sanctuaries? Elu batei chenisiyot ubatei midrashot. What are the sanctuaries? What is the mikdeshechem? These are the synagogues and the batei midrash. Ve'ita b'Megillah, and we learn in Megillah, ve'hi lahem mikdash me'at, and I will be for them a mini sanctuary. Amar Rabbi Ishaq. What is this? Rabbi Ishaq is telling us, Elu batei chenisiyot ubatei midrashot shebabel. These are the synagogues and the batei midrash in Babel. We were talking at a time when the people were exiled and living out in Babel. Nowadays would apply to any synagogue, any beit midrash, any place in the world. Lamadnu. From this, what do we learn? Shekishe amra Torah umikdashi tira'u. From this we learn, when it says "Umikdashi tira'u," you should have fear, you should have awe of my Mikdash. What does that mean? It means any and every Beit Knesset, synagogue, and Beit Midrash, house of learning. Okay, Kenayis and Midrash. Ulid Barav, and according to his words, Kedushat Beit Knesset hi min Torah. According to him, the Kedusha, the sanctity of Beit Knesset, is from the Torah. V'yesh mishkatav shegam Harambam sober ken. And there are those that say the Harambam also is such an opinion. If you look in Harambam, in Sefer HaMizvot, Mizvot Lo Ta'aseh, number 65, Samacheh, you could check it out over there. V'yesh megedolei Rishonim be'aharonim hasurim ken. And there are many great Rishonim and Aharonim who also seem to say the same thing. But on the flip side, there are those that say it's only midrabbanan. והדרשות על הפסוקים הנזכרים לעיל המורים שקדושת בית הכנסת היא מהתורה אין הם לדעתם אלא אסמכתא בעלמא. And there are those that say otherwise, like the Ran and the Rif and other Rishonim and Aharonim say these pesukim that we're quoting, this is an asmachta, this is how the rabbis learn about it, and therefore it's a issue derabbanan and not deoraita. Regardless, It doesn't change the scenario for us. We're talking about the sanctity of the Beit Knesset, and the sanctity of the Beit Knesset remains. It is extremely, extremely high, and whether it's the Oraita or the Rabbanan, we still have to, adhere to it. Namsinu lomdim. Shehi mahloket gilui aposkin el shelinidon didan en shum nafka mina. Exactly like we said, it makes no difference whether it's the Rabbanan or the Oraita. El shkeda l'sayin l'sheladat hasobrin shkedusha b'et haKnesset himen Torah onesh hamdaber b'et haKnesset hu hamur beyoter. But we must note that according to those that say that this is an issue the Oraita from the Torah, then the stringency, or rather the punishment of he or she who speaks in the Beit Knesset is extremely strict. V'teshubato kasha, and doing repentance for it is extremely difficult. Sheken katav HaRokeach. Look what the Rokeach writes. שהמדבר בבית הכנסת דיבור של חול אפילו שלא בשעת תפילה יתענה 40 יום וילקה. According to the Rokeach, any person who speaks in the Beit Knesset, dibur hol, mundane speech, even if it's not at the time of prayer, what does he must do? To rectify this, he must fast for 40 days and he must get flogged. He must get lashed. Shekadbu, and the Shalmei Sibur quotes the Rokeach, and the Shalmei Sibur continues, and the Rokeach continues. Shekadbu harishonim al dibarav sheta'amu mishum dekay malan asul lekohanim leikares bet hamikdash bi'a rekanit. How does he figure this out? How does he learn it? According to the halacha, a kohen is not allowed to enter the Beit HaMikdash for no purpose whatsoever. This is called bi'a rekanit, entering, coming in for no purpose, and it's asur, it's haram. Ubate knesset shelanu he mikdash ma'at, and we've said that our synagogues are like small sanctuaries, like small Beit HaMikdash. V'lachen asur lehikanes bahem ella litfilah, and therefore we're only allowed to enter for the purpose of tefillah. She keneged abodah, because it parallels the abodah, the service of the Beit HaMikdash. Or the Talmud Torah, the adif mezebah munha, or to study Torah, which is considered greater than zebahim u'menachot, which are types of korbanot. V'lachen katav shilakeh, and therefore he wrote that he must be flogged. Why? Lefi shibi'ah rekanit asura v'lokeh aliyah, because when a kohen enters the Beit HaMikdash for no reason whatsoever, his punishment is flogging. V'chen hamdaber sihat holin hu rekanim ma'avodah, and therefore somebody who in the Beit Knesset and is speaking mundane words, this is even emptier than not doing avodah, not praying, then therefore he must be punished the same way. Obviously, there's much to be said about such a reasoning and such an understanding and such a position. The reason I'm bringing it to you, Rabbi Haim is telling us to show us the great issue that we're dealing with over here and how strict the Hachamim looked at it. And even according to those that say it's the Rabbanan, the Gemara tells us, כל העובר על דברי החיים חייב מיתה. Masechet Berachot, Daf Dalet Amud Bet tells us anybody who transgresses the words of the Hachamim, חייב מיתה, he is obligated to be killed, to die. והדברים ארוכים מאוד בדברי הפוסקים ראשונים האחרונים, ואילו כאן לציין אף לא כאפס קלסהו, אלא שכדאי לצטט דברי הרב שדה חמד. He says, we can't quote everything on this topic, but let me at least tell you what the Sede Hamed has to say about it. B'Hizkiah Medini. She'acharei she'arich harbe b'situt debrei poskim b'zeh katav. After he quoted many of the Hachamim on this, he wrote, "Ulfi darkein u'lemadnu." According to our way, we have learned. The Shilamim v'chen rabim nakte the kedushat Beit Knesset ma'Torah. Many have learned that the kedusha of the Beit Knesset is the Oraita, it's from the Torah. And he says that the Re'em says this, and the Rambam and the Ramban and many others. V'kever the Rabbanei HaHaronim, and therefore we see that many of the Harim don't say this. He goes, doesn't mean that they don't agree with the Rambam and the Ramban and the Re'em. It's rather they most probably did not see what they wrote because they didn't even quote them. And because they didn't quote them on this, that means they probably didn't look there. And if they looked there and they saw what they said, they would probably agree that it is the Oraita. Regardless, There are many great Hachamim, Rishonim and Aharonim that say it's the Uraita. There are many Aharonim that says the Rabbanan. Regardless, it doesn't change the status. And whose heart will not tremble when he reads these things? And therefore, who wouldn't be careful to not speak the Brei Hol in the Beit Knesset even when it's not time to tefillah? And all the more so, at the time of the tefillah and at the time of reading the Torah, all the more so, and it's a double whammy when a person speaks when the prayers are going on, when the Sefer Torah is being read, that this is a double avon, and it is very, very strict, and the person's punishment is extremely great. And the halacha in Shulchan Aruch is very clear. Open up Shulchan Aruch, Ora Haim, Siman, Kof, Nun, Aleph, okay, 151, Se'if Aleph. What does it say? Siha betela asura bebet haKnesset afilu shelo b'shat tefillah. Okay, idle chatter is forbidden in the Beit Knesset, even not at a time of prayer. Ve'ilu b'shat tefillah. And what does Maran write regarding the time of tefillah? He writes in Siman Kof Chav Dalet, okay, 124 Se'if Zayin. He writes what? Lo yasiyah sihat holim b'sha'a sheshaliya sibur hozet tefillah. Person does not speak when the Hazan is doing Hazara. V'imsah, and if he did speak, hu hoteh, he's a sinner. V'gadol avorum mineso v'go'anim bo, and his sin and his punishment is tremendous, and we must reprimand him. V'katav b'sefer Avei Amudim, and what does the book of Avei Amudim say? Min ha'ra'ui. Look, he gives advice. He tells us what to do. And many of the commentators of Shulchan Aruch quote him. Min ha'ra'ui she'kol kihila u'kihila ya'amidu anashim al zeh. The proper things that every congregation has to set up people to watch for this. Asher yashgihu be'onshim rabbim ala medabbirim ve'yibayeshu otam rabbim. That they have to watch out for these people that are speaking. They're making a lot of sins. Okay, and they have to be punished. And they have to be humiliated publicly. Call them out on it. Ad kan l'shunu. Now, Rabbi Haim David HaLevi doesn't necessarily agree or disagree with this last part of Avei Hamudim, but he says, "Ubizmanenu, nowadays, barur shelo nitan la'asot ken." It's pretty clear that we can't do such a thing. Velo he'aitakti dibarim elle illa kedei l'lmot humrat ha'isod. But the reason I brought it down here and I quoted it for you, because I want you to see how severely the Hachamim looked at this topic and how they dealt with it and how they felt that we had to deal with it. He concludes now. He goes, I don't have any clear, proven answer as how to deal with this. Because this is what I recommend to one of the Gabbaim in a synagogue in our town, in other words in Tel Aviv, where he's chief rabbi, who asked my opinion, and I said there's a special Mishiberach that was composed by the Tosfot Yom Tov that is for people who don't speak, and to say it when you open up the Hechal. And this Mishiberach only gives the Berachot to those who don't speak. He goes, so say it loud and clear. In Israel, obviously, they would understand the words. Maybe not in all places, all the people who listen will understand the words, but if they understand the words, or even do it in English, okay, say this Mishiberach at the Hechal, and it's the Berachot of the Mishiberach only extend to those who do not speak. And that's part of the words of this Mishiberach. And when the Hazan or the rabbi says this, hopefully it'll sink in, and people will stop talking or talk less because they'll want to get that beracha. And in fact, after a while of this synagogue implementing this, it actually happened, and people stopped talking completely, and they got rid of the problem of people speaking during the Shat Tefillah. As far as children, he goes on and says it's very important to bring children to the Beit Knesset, but only if they are of the proper age where they can control themselves, where they know what they're doing there. And not only that, they must sit with their fathers and pray with their fathers. They cannot be left alone to go run around, and the father can't say, I'm going to go pray in the hallway with my son or my daughter or whatever it is. They have to be together, sitting in the Beit Knesset, and that's the way you train them properly. It's a beautiful teshuvah, and it's very, very sound advice, especially now in the summer when we find ourselves in different synagogues, in different scenarios, seeing different friends, people that we don't see year-round, and we have the urge to speak. Let's control ourselves and speak outside the Beit Knesset. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy.